The 2018 murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul shocked the world. It also drew attention to the increasing attacks on journalists around the globe. We'll be looking back at the ongoing Khashoggi murder investigation in 2019 and talking about the threats that journalists still face. My first interview is with the person tasked with that investigation, UN Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard.
My investigation focused first on uncovering how that killing took place, who was involved, who did what. So it focused very much on what happened in Turkey. The second step was to get better information and evidence on what happened in Saudi Arabia before the killing and after the killing.
What has happened since the murder to hold those accountable for it, and what frustrates you the most that hasn't been done yet?
At the moment, the accountability process for the killing of Mr. Khashoggi, with accountability understood in a formal sense, meaning a trial, a jury, a sentence. That is not happening. I do not consider the trial currently in Saudi Arabia as amounting to accountability for Jamal. There are too many aspects of the trial that are eminently problematic. Many of them violate international law.
What do you know now that you didn't know back in June?
Hi, that's an interesting question. What I am discovering bit by bit is the extent to which Saudi Arabia has engaged in illicit surveillance of a number of individuals. I am made more aware of allegations of a plan to kidnap and abduct other dissidents, including in the United States.
To our friends in Saudi Arabia, your stock is about as low as I've ever seen it. We should sanction Saudi Arabia for the conduct that I think was sanctioned by the Crown Prince that happened on his watch.
On December 17th, the U.S. Congress passed a bill giving the Director of National Intelligence 30 days to submit a report detailing names of people, suspects involved in the killing of Khashoggi. Does it bother you that the Trump administration gutted language that would have penalized Saudi Arabia and its officials?
So at the moment, the White House is a major protector of Saudi Arabia and in particular of the Crown Prince in the context of American politics.
There is impunity, and the message that sends about the brutal murder, the dismemberment of a Saudi journalist and someone who spoke about the problems of the government, the Saudi leadership, the human rights abuses, the message that it sends of leaving this case without any accountability for those who were involved, who may very well have been at the highest levels of the Saudi leadership, it says it's okay, you can get away with it. And when we hear the United States president sort of saying that this isn't really a big deal, the price of oil is far more important than one individual, these countries that are cracking down on journalists and human rights defenders, they hear that loud and clear, and they know that they can get away with murder, literally.
So there is no doubt in our minds that this was a state-sponsored killing, and that it was designed to send a message that the government would accept absolutely no criticism of what it was doing in Saudi Arabia. Jamal Khashoggi was a U.S. permanent resident. He had a very prominent role at an international newspaper, the Washington Post, and he was a well-known figure in the country, having served in the bureaucracy, both in the embassies of Saudi Arabia in London and in Washington. But none of that protected him. So the message is clear. No matter how important you are, no matter how prominent you are, we can get you.
98% of the journalists jailed in 2019 were reporters covering politics, human rights, and corruption in their own countries. In some cases, it cost them their lives. 25 journalists were killed, 10 of them in Mexico. 13 countries make up the annual Global Impunity Index that spotlights countries where journalists are slain and the killers go free. Somalia is the world's worst country when it comes to prosecuting murderers of journalists. And the Philippines leads the world in the number of unsolved murders of journalist cases. Several human rights agencies and a committee to protect journalists asked the Secretary General to engage in an investigation of the Khashoggi murder. He did not do that. Is the Secretary General of the United Nations abdicating his responsibility to investigate this?
The Secretary General has said that it is not in his power to do so, and that he needed initially a demand from Turkey, and then later on a resolution from the Security Council. So we know that a resolution will never happen. So for the Secretary General to suggest he needs a resolution from the Security Council is really a way of deflecting the attention and saying it's not my responsibility.
In 2019, Saudi Arabia gave more than $500 million to the UN for humanitarian aid to Yemen. The question is, will the Secretary General finally launch a further investigation into the murder of Jamal Khashoggi in the new year? Frank Ucciardo, TRT World, the United Nations.